Our special guest today, you may hear or see on South Campus Monday through Friday afternoons. There's a lot of talk about him on social media, and we decided to have a conversation with him today. Please welcome to the show Joshua Whitson, a.k.a. the Bagpipe Guy. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So a lot of OSU students, you're on Twitter, you're on apps like Yik Yak, Reddit. Pictures of you kind of almost like a mysterious, like mythical figure almost. Everyone's like, why is this guy on campus? Why is he playing the bagpipes? So I guess my first question is, why Ohio State? What makes you come to the Oval and the South Oval every day and just play your music across campus?
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Cleveland, and I spent my entire life up through college in Cleveland, the Cleveland area.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I went away for a couple of years to grad school. So I spent a couple of years in Boston, and then after that, I spent a couple of years in Pennsylvania just working, and really missed Ohio. I think people from Ohio really love to complain about Ohio.
Yeah.
But when you're gone, you miss a lot about it. You miss the way people act and the food and
The Midwest as a whole.
Yeah, just the whole kind of friendly atmosphere. You can have big cities like Cleveland and Columbus, but you don't have to wait 15 minutes in a parking lot on a Tuesday afternoon at a grocery store to park, which was my experience in Boston. Yeah. So I started really wanting to come back to the state because I just like Ohio.
Cool.
Family here, friends, and everything. So when I saw that there was a job posted in my field here at OSU, I applied and hoped I got it, and here I am.
Great. So to walk through that, so you went to, I assume, undergrad in Cleveland.
Yeah.
What school?
So I did my undergraduate studies at Baldwin-Wallace University. It was Baldwin-Wallace College at the time. They've since switched the name. In Berea, which is just outside Cleveland. It's actually the same town the Cleveland airport is in.
Great. And then you mentioned Boston.
Yeah.
What school for a graduate?
So for my graduate studies, I went on to Harvard. I got a master in theological studies, and my specific concentration was East Asian religions.
So what'd you do for then your undergrad?
Undergrad, I majored in religion.
Okay.
I triple minored in Asian studies, diversity studies, and sociology.
Great. Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I guess that explains the fact that you got into Harvard. That's very prestigious. So what made you pursue Harvard, and I guess what made you pursue East Asian religions as your graduate then?
Sure. So I actually went to college having no idea what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, freshman year randomly placed in a religion class. During my entrance advising, it was recommended to me, so I thought, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up really liking it, so I kind of stuck with that for a while. And then one summer I got the opportunity to do a short-term study abroad in China. And I had sort of taken a couple classes that dealt a little bit with Asian religions,
Mm-hmm.
but that for me was really the turning point where I really started focusing on East Asia and specifically China,
Mm-hmm.
because I knew this trip was coming up, so I started taking Chinese classes and studying Buddhism and Taoism and these kind of things. Then I actually got to go to China and check it all out. And so that's when I really started focusing on Asia and specifically China. And then my original plan was to go on to graduate school, get a master's degree, get a PhD, and then teach. But after the master's degree, I started thinking I was kind of done with homework. So
Yeah.
wanted to take a break, at least for a little while. I might go back eventually.
Great. And so you say you're at OSU, you have a job here then?
Yeah.
I assume, are you a teacher here? Or
I don't teach. No, I work in the Office of International Affairs.
Oh, great.
And what I do is international student advising. And the simplest way I can explain the job that makes sense to people is you think about anything a student does, like just a domestic, regular American
Mm-hmm.
student. You might change your major. You would move year to year probably to either different dorms, or you're moving off campus, or
Right.
you're getting an apartment. You're doing all these different things. The U.S. government wants to know about these things for international students. Sometimes
Yeah,
they need to be
makes sense.
authorized in advance, and if not authorized, they at least need to be reported.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is help those international students do that extra step for all these things that an American student doesn't have to do.
Great. Do you advise just international students in general, or do you again focus on maybe Chinese students or East Asian students, or
Sure.
just kind of across the board?
Yeah. The way our office is set up, I'm one of several immigration coordinators,
Okay.
and we handle all the international students on campus.
Oh, that's great.
So it would just depend on who comes in the door that day and who you're advising that day. So.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have guessed that just from your musical interest alone. So, so then when do you play the bagpipes then, and kind of what makes you want to spend your time doing that? while you're
Sure.
Here?
That's my main thing. My main hobby that I do. When I'm not working.
Right.
So for me right now, I'm driving to work and then I'm at work and afterwards I'm going home. I have an 18-month-old son.
Okay.
So me and my wife are getting him ready for bed. We're having dinner. He's got he has his bath time and then he goes to bed. So there's really no chance for me to play at home. Because there's I'm doing everything with him and then once he's asleep you obviously can't play bagpipes in the house.
Right. And just in general, this area, it's not conducive with the neighbors.
Right. Anytime you're sharing walls with people or
Right.
you're living in close quarters,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work really well because it's probably, I don't know, it must be pretty close to the world's loudest instrument without an amplifier.
Yeah.
So my lunch break works really well for me as a time to practice. Just because, I don't have other responsibilities. It's a break from work. I'm not at home. There's nothing there I could be doing. So I tend to try to eat quickly while I work and then use my whole hour to practice. So I'm at the Oval because it's just the closest place to my office that I can walk to, where there's a little space between me and the next building.
Cool. Do any of your students that come in, do they recognize you as a bagpipe guy, or?
Very, very rarely.
Yeah.
Not often.
What about
any
of your coworkers? Or?
Oh, everyone at the office knows because there was an article in the Lantern, so that got passed around and things like that. And they'll see me sometimes just going out for lunch and I'm holding my bagpipes or whatever. But I think people tend to notice the bagpipes more than they notice me.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of anonymity I adopt the second I put it away. It's like Clark Kent putting on his glasses. He's no longer Superman all of a sudden. Same kind of thing. I mean, there are so many students and faculty and staff here at this one school that if I pack up my bagpipes, I put them in the case, which just looks like a backpack.
You just blend right.
I just look like anybody else. So
That's great.
Yeah, the backpack does say bagpiper on it, so if you notice that, you would maybe take a guess. But.
Yeah, you check out the OSU thread on like Reddit or something. Yeah. You see like almost like Bigfoot style pictures, just like the back of you, almost as if the person's afraid to actually like just take a real photo.
Yeah,
it's very mystical.
There are two types of people. They're the type of people that take pictures of me or film me, and then when they see that I notice, they get really embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And then there are the people that just don't care. So,
Do you tend to care? Or?
I don't care. I think if you're going to be out there doing something like playing the bagpipes at a school this size during lunch, you have to expect that it's going to happen.
Yeah. I just can't. The closest thing I got into was I used to speed through my homework during class, so I can go home and play video games. Sure. So that's like the closest thing. How'd you get started in music? How'd that become a passion of yours?
When I was younger, my dad played guitar. Okay. So that was kind of always an aspiration of mine. And I didn't really get started with that until I was 13 years old. Okay. He showed me a little bit, and then the rest was just kind of self-taught, hanging out with my friends. And it just didn't really do it for me. Mm-hmm. So I started really kind of collecting instruments and learning a lot of different instruments. So, I played bass guitar for a while. I took piano lessons. And as I was kind of exploring different instruments, I found I tended to gravitate more towards, like, folk instruments, kind of weirder, unusual stuff, like dulcimers, didgeridoos, if you know what those are.
Yeah, I don't know what dulcimer is.
A dulcimer, it's just like like Appalachian folk kind of instrument. It has 4 strings. It lays on your lap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, like banjos, I had a banjolin, which is a cross between a banjo and a mandolin. So I just kind of really just started finding all these different instruments, and nothing really stuck. I was kind of always looking for the next thing to learn. Mm. I thought about bagpipes for a while. Thought they sounded really cool. Just growing up, you hear them in movies like Tommy Boy, during like the funeral, and Braveheart, obviously, and that kind of stuff. So I thought about it, but they seemed pretty expensive. I didn't know anyone who played,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't think about it too much. And then one day, kind of out of the blue, my friend just said he started taking lessons, and you don't actually need a set of bagpipes to start out. You play on something, you play on something called a practice chanter, which looks like a recorder. It's very quiet. It's easy to play. You don't need a lot of lung power or anything like that, which makes sense. Handing someone a set of bagpipes isn't going to go very well. I mean, yeah. It would discourage just about anyone from trying to play more than 2 seconds. If you could even make a noise, it would sound horrible.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know how to hold them.
So relatively inexpensive to get this,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can take lessons and see if it's for you or not. So his instructor was a guy in Cleveland named Sandy Hain, who still teaches. He's a great guy, and he was actually a pipe major in the British Army.
Wow.
Before he immigrated here.
That's awesome.
So that was really cool. Had a couple lessons. I went to a practice to check it out because he was also a pipe major of a band up in Cleveland. And the first day I was at this practice, and there were about 30 bagpipes and a bunch of snare drummers and bass drum. And when all the pipes came in together, I was instantly hooked and knew it was something I wanted to do. So I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah,
I was about 15 when I started that. So
that's awesome. I love how the bagpipes have like a practice instrument.
Yeah,
so
they have to.
Yeah, that prevents, and that also prevents a lot of people. You see, every college kid has a guitar.
Yeah.
Maybe 10% of them know how to play it.
You know, it's kind of like with guitar. You wouldn't pick up a guitar for the first time, plug it into an amp, and crank it up, and then not even know how to tune the thing. Kind of the same thing with bagpipes.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't.
Yeah. That's great. So you started at 15. So did you play throughout like high school and college then?
Yeah. So I played mostly. Originally, I played probably I would say until I was a junior in college, and that's when I cut back a lot. So I stopped taking lessons at that point. I stopped playing with a band, and I was really just doing kind of solo gigs, practicing occasionally. I mean, that's when I started. I went to China, and started really focusing on my academics. I started focusing on getting ready to go to Harvard.
Right.
I went to Harvard, and that was a pretty intensive experience. So I still played throughout that time, but I took about a 4-year hiatus. And it wasn't until I graduated grad school that I got an instructor again, I joined a band again, and started picking things back up and started competing again.
Great. So you said you're in a band. Is it like a folk band or?
Well, so the bagpipe world probably if you're talking about bands that include bagpipes, there are, I guess, kind of 2 different options.
Mm-hmm.
One is kind of the folk band kind of thing, or kind of the Celtic punk thing, like Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah.
That's where you'd have like a bunch of instruments, then you have someone playing bagpipes.
Yeah.
The other thing, which is more traditional, is to have pipe bands. And these are where you would have about anywhere from maybe 5 to 25 people playing bagpipes. And then you have snare drums, a bass drum, and you have 4 or 5, tenor drums. And these bands, the primary thing that they do is compete with each other. So what I do all throughout the summer are go to different Highland games across the United States and Canada, with a band. Right now I just joined, so hopefully be competing with them next year, the Great Lakes Pipe Band in Cleveland.
That's great. Yeah.
Before this I was in Pennsylvania, so I was with a different band up there.
So to get into those, is there like an audition process then? You kind of have to be... it's not just a bunch of people in their garage who decide we all have bagpipes.
It really depends on the band.
Yeah.
Like here in this part of the United States, they're separated by grade, and it goes from grade 5, which is the lowest, all the way up to grade 1. So a lot about which band you're going to play with depends on what your individual skill level is. A band, if they start in grade 5 but they do really well all season and they win a lot, it's likely that they might get bumped up to 4, and the same thing all the way up to 1.
Great. Yeah, we won't say the specific grade your band's at, so people can just assume it's one.
That's fine.
Yeah, at the top of your game.
Yeah.
Did you ever experiment or try out like the Celtic pop, or what was it, Celtic punk at all, or?
Not really. There are problems with the instrument and incorporating it with other instruments.
Yeah.
So just to name a few things that probably only musicians will understand. It's not tuned chromatically, like a piano or most instruments are today. It has what's called just tuning. So the drones are the background humming sound on the bagpipes.
Right.
Those are making one constant note. And that means that all the melody notes have to harmonize with that for it not to sound awful.
Oh, okay.
So it's not tuned in the same way a piano is, where every note has to be able to work with every other note on some level. So it doesn't match automatically. So you would actually have to buy different equipment to play with other instruments.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you have the volume factor, where basically they're so
Very
loud
dominating.
that the other instruments really have to be mic'd.
Right.
And everything has to be amplified or it's not going to work. So you can't really play in like a traditional like folk, like a pub setting where people are just sitting around the table playing just because they're so loud.
Wow.
So I've never really gotten into it just because of a lot of tuning issues and things like that.
So you say you do a lot of solo gigs. Is it just like concerts around town or shows around town, or I know the bagpipes are used a lot for gathering, like weddings, funerals, etc. Do you do any of that kind of work?
Yeah, most of the solo gigs I do are primarily weddings and funerals. Other than that, I will occasionally have something like a birthday party at an Irish pub, or something along those lines. But primarily solo, it's going to be funerals, weddings, memorial services. I used to do one up in Cleveland, which was like a 5K for charity. So I play once I saw the first runner coming back at the end of the 5K and kind of walk them up to the finish line, playing the bagpipes and things like that. So occasionally something like that, but mostly weddings and funerals.
That's great. Were you the bagpipe guy? So you weren't like known as a bagpipe guy in Harvard, right? You said you cut down a lot.
Not at Harvard, no, because I wasn't playing as much. I played more early on when I was an undergrad.
Okay.
I was bagpipe boy then, so I've gone up in the world.
Yeah, we all grow up.
Yeah.
You said that was one of your nicknames that was granted to you. What else do people call you?
Bagpipe boy was basically it when I was an undergrad. Here, I played all summer.
Okay. Yeah.
Alternating between the oval and the south oval. But it wasn't until the first day of school that there were really a ton of people walking around.
Right.
And that I was playing the south oval that day. So that's, for a while, south oval bagpiper really stuck. South oval bagpipe guy. And then when people realized I played on the oval as well, it was kind of just oval bagpipe guy. And now it's kind of just bagpipe guy. Or bagpipe man. That dude with the bagpipes.
Anyone you prefer? Now this will be released, kind of set the record straight.
No preference. Yeah. The guy with the bagpipes is fine. Yeah, bagpipe guy's fine.
Cool. So any memorable experiences off the top of your head?
Sure. I've played my pipes all over the country, so a lot of stuff comes to mind. For example, I played during my commencement at Harvard. That was awesome. One of the things I did. So I was wearing, the robe and, had the hat on and everything, but was playing the bagpipes. So,
That's
stuff
really
like
cool.
that comes to mind. But honestly, the most memorable so far for me has been playing here at OSU. I played all summer, and there's basically no one on the oval, no one around. Right. It was kind of a very normal, quiet, park-like setting to me. And then the first day of school, suddenly there are literally, during lunch, a couple thousand people that walk past me. And this happens on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, while I'm out there playing. And every time that happens, when you have that many people seeing something, that kind of lights up on social media.
Right.
So it's on Twitter. People are on Yik Yak talking about it. It's on Instagram. So all this is going on, and it's something I've never experienced before. So right now, the most memorable thing for me is I'm in this setting with all these people, and it's just kind of insane. But it's fun.
Yeah. I know a lot of people enjoy having you. You become sort of like a celebrity. You've made it when you're on the same pages as Afro Duck.
Right, exactly, right?
For years.
I've learned about Afro Duck and the Nerf dart and all these cool things. Yeah.
Is there like a secret? I guess you don't have to tell me. Is there like a secret group for all the campus celebrities?
Yeah, but the dart and Afro Duck don't talk much, unfortunately. So, yeah.
That's a shame. Well, I know a lot of people on campus enjoy hearing you, and so if there's anything to plug, places where people can find you, maybe online or some events you're doing at all?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. Probably the easiest way for anyone looking to get in contact me or tweet me or check out my channel and subscribe would be just go to my main website, which is ohiobagpipes.com, so that's pretty easy to remember. All the contact information is on there, so you could find me on that website.
Great. With that being said, we loved having you here on College Night. Thank you so much for coming on. Awesome. That was my interview with Joshua Whitson, a.k.a. the Bagpipe Guy. You can check him out at ohiobagpipes.com for hiring, pricing, or just to see some videos. Or you can see him live Monday through Friday at the main oval or the south oval here on campus. That's it for College Night. Have a great night.